Learning: The Habit of a Lifetime for Educators, with Mickey Phipps, Alita Shaw, and Travis Thompson.
Through our PowerPoint, we'll be discussing lifelong learning. And what is lifelong learning? Lifelong learning is a continuous cycle of learning that is sought after throughout life. According to Jacques Delors, a French economist and politician, there are 4 pillars that relate to lifelong learning. They are learning to know, learning to do, learning to be, and learning to live together. As we begin to examine the 4 pillars, let's take a look at learning to know. Learning to know is having a desire for knowledge or a want to expand one's boundaries from within. It is also important to learn how to learn throughout life. By completing a basic education, but still having the curiosity and the desire of the thirst for knowledge. Next, we'll look at learning to do. Learning to do is like producing a package of skills that enables a learner to incorporate knowledge and methods that have been obtained through life. The third is learning to live together. Now, communication is key. Being able to converse and learn from others with a variety of backgrounds. For the sake of the K-12 world, it is important to develop that positive relationship between schools and communities. And last, learning to be. Learning to be is like finding one's full potential as a learner. As Jacques Delors stated while addressing the International Congress on Lifelong Learning in Spain, he said, "A treasure lies within each one of us, and continuing education must enable everyone to improve their self-knowledge during their vital quest for self-esteem. It is up to the learner to decide how far to continue their strive and motivation to learn throughout a lifetime."
We have identified 5 barriers to change: failure to recognize need for change, habit, previous unsuccessful efforts, fear of the unknown, and threats to expertise. Judith Zimmerman states that schools across the country are pressured to reform by federal and state mandates. Because resistance is a major factor in reform failure, it is crucial for principals to discover why teachers resist change. So, what are some barriers to change? One of the many barriers to both individual and organizational change that has been documented in the literature is failure to recognize the need for change. Unless teachers understand and appreciate the need for change in their schools, their interest in maintaining the status quo will undoubtedly take precedence over their willingness to accept change. Many teachers simply think what they have done for years is good enough. Why do we need to mix it up and do something different that may or may not work as well? A second barrier is habit. It is the habit of humans to resist anything new. Rather than working to develop new skills and strategies, it is simply easier to continue teaching the same ways. Some actually call this laziness. The thing about a habit is the more you do it, the more difficult it is to get rid of, but every single bad habit can be broken. However, teachers must see a true need to break the habits in the classroom in order to ever have a desire to change. And change will never come without a desire to change. Change involves not only learning something new, but unlearning something that is integrated into an individual's self or social system. Other change-resistant characteristics exhibited by teachers might be a result of their past experiences. Past unsuccessful attempts at change could leave teachers extremely wary about accepting further attempts. Robert Baden-Powell once said, "We never fail when we try to do our duty. We always fail when we neglect to do it." Many teachers have to see that failure is a necessary part of life. We would be wise to allow it to change us and shape us. For many, once they have stuck their neck out and failed, they are very reluctant to do it again. Because many people feel a sense of security from doing things in familiar ways, disrupting teachers' well-established professional and instructional patterns could result in fear of the unknown. Furthermore, if teachers feel that the school environment for change is unsafe, they not only are unlikely to embrace new practices, but might also become defensive and resort to their old habits. The stress of living in a constantly unpredictable environment can cause anxiety. People can develop fear to anxiety. This can be seen recently in the whole push for Common Core standards and the new form of testing. These are recent changes that have caused much fear in many of our teachers. Most adult changes involve attitudes, values, self-concept, and can be painful and threatening. Teachers might actually feel threatened in a number of ways by the prospect of change. Their acceptance of change could be affected by perceived threats to their expertise and proven abilities, and their belief that they lack the knowledge and skills to implement the change successfully.
The Center for Public Education has identified 5 strategies that are necessary for successful implementation of professional development and ultimately a change in teaching and learning. Current teaching and learning theory encourages approaching content using a new set of core skills that may require a new way of thinking and an entire overhaul of teaching strategies for some teachers. Research has shown that the average amount of professional development provided to teachers each year is 14 hours, but that teachers may need more than 50 hours in order to master and implement a single strategy. It has also been shown that teachers are significantly more likely to implement a practice after 80 hours of exposure. Furthermore, it may take teachers as many as 20 separate instances of practice for mastery of a new skill. The implementation phase of professional development must be included in order to gain the return on investment in training. In 2003, Truesdale found that teachers coached through implementation of a new strategy learned in training were able to change their teaching practices, while teachers who only attended a workshop were not. Just as our students learn more quickly, more thoroughly, and in more depth when they are actively engaged in their learning, so do we. Professional development must reach a variety of learners in the same way as a classroom lesson. Just as we discussed in our recent brain-based learning project, teachers must be engaged in ways that are relevant to them or in ways that make the dendrites grow. Modeling has been found to be one of the most effective practices in helping educators to learn and implement a new teaching strategy. Seeing a demonstration of a skilled teacher using the strategies that we would like to implement can help us to transfer that skill to our own toolbox. Often, professional development occurs on specified days during the school year, like the first days of school, and usually the training is something generic that administrators believe can benefit the entire faculty. However, research shows that these kinds of trainings are usually rated the least useful by teachers and have the lowest impact on student learning. There is no doubt that high quality professional development is necessary to build the capacity of teachers, and that such training is expensive in both financial and time commitments. However, it is imperative that we consider the return on investment in exploring training opportunities. Thank you for listening to our presentation on lifelong learning.